All right, class. Today we are going to learn how to make a while loop, and I'm also introducing you to if, and else statements. Very similar to what we did in blocks. So the first thing I'm going to do is come here and save my file. I'm just going to call this one while loop and if. That's fine. I've already done this once or twice, so there we go. So I have my name in there. Project. For my project name, I'm just going to call this thing a while and if slash elif slash else or demo. Sorry, there you go. Demo. The author, that is me. Obviously, you put your own name in here. Created. And oops, that create in there. So that's going to be February 26, 2023. Description. I'm going to put in here uh, a program to demonstrate while loops and uh, if slash elif slash else statements by displaying a bar and number on the Vex V5 screen. There we go. Nice little description. All right, the way I like to do projects, I kind of always set things up the exact same way at the beginning. Right when I come into one, knowing if I already know what I've done, if I already pseudocoded this thing, I'll come in and just go ahead and set a framework for myself. I like to do a setup area. And the way you put this in here, it's up to you. I like to do just the pound symbol and then 5 dashes, the word, and then 5 dashes. It's just easier for me to see it that way. You're not required to do it this way. It's just something that I've found works for me. After setup, I create my variables. After variables, I create my functions. And after my functions, I'll create a main area. And for me, it's just very easy to see these things. All right. So in my setup, I know that I'm going to put a bar across my screen each time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set my width of that bar because it's not going to change this whole thing, the whole program. So in my setup, I'm just going to do brain dot screen dot set and width. And I think I'm going to set mine to 20 pixels. A little note in here. This sets the bar that will be displayed to 20 pixels. Happy with that. All right. Uh, let's see here. I want to skip my variables. We're going to be bouncing back and forth on these things a few times, but for right now, I'm just going to leave that alone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump all the way down here to my main area. And what I want to do is I want to create a loop that will continue to go on for a number of times. And then when the condition becomes false, then it will just stop working. We've done this in blocks. This is called a while loop. And for Python, the way you do this is just type the word while, and then you give it the argument or condition. For me, I'm going to do a counter, which means I'll have to make this up here. I'm just going to come up here and create that counter right now. Because it's going to be a variable. Counter equals, and I'm just going to put a 10 in here. I'll put a note on this thing. This is the number of times the while loop will repeat. 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 No, something like that. Whatever. So I had this 10, so now I can come back here to my while. And I did this as, I'm setting mine up as a countdown counter because I want to have this number. It's going to be a neat little, as the number gets down, the bar changes until finally I have a red one. And I'm happy with that. So I'm going to do my, while my counter is greater than or equal to 0. So while this counter is above or equal to 0, it's going to stay in this loop and keep doing it over and over and over again. And I press enter, you're going to see after my colon, I've tabbed in, and I'm going to put an if statement in there. If counter, and this is what I'm going to have this do is if it's anything that's above a 9, it's going to set my pen color, or if it is equal to 5, because I'm going to use the colors twice, so I don't have to go crazy with coding here. So if counter is greater than or equal to 9, or counter is or equals, and for equals is 2 equal signs, otherwise we're assigning. So, or counter equals 5, colon, enter, and I'm going to set my pen color to green. So brain dot screen dot set pen color. There we go. And I'm going to make mine go green to a bluish, then orange, yellow, and then red, just so it kind of looks like it's getting like a worse condition, I guess. So my highest number will be green. I'm happy with that. All right, so what this is doing right now is it's saying that while the counter is greater than 0, I get into this loop. If counter is above 9, above or equal to 9, then counter equals 5. Actually, I don't even want equal to, I just want above. If the counter is above 9 or equal to 5, then brain.screen.set pen color is going to be green. And it's a nice little green color. Now, I want this thing to put a line on my screen. I want it to put the number on my screen. I want it to wait a second. I want to clear the screen and then have my counter advance. It's going to do this every time. So that means I'm going to create a function. I'm going to jump up into my functions area, and I'm going to start creating my function with the DEF. Fine, I'm going to call my function line draw. All one word. I'm putting a capital D in there in the middle. So I'm using my camel casing and open and close parentheses. I'm not sending any parameters through. I'm going to hit colon. Very good. Now, like I said, I want to draw a line in this thing. So I'm going to go with brain dot screen dot draw line, and you're going to see it wants a start X and end Y, or start Y and end X and an end Y. Now the Vexify screen is a 480 pixels wide by 272 pixels tall, and knowing that I want my bar to extend most of the screen, I'm going to have it 50 pixels off the left side and 50 pixels off the right side. So my start X is going to be 50. My end X, if it's 480 minus 50, would be 430. And then for my Y, it's going to be a horizontal bar, so it's going to be the same number for both start and end Y. I want mine a little bit above halfway, so I think I'm going to go with 100. So I'm going to draw my line. My start X is going to be 50. And I'm going to do it my start Y at 100. My end X is at 430. And my end Y is going to be at 100. I'm going to put a little note in here. Vex E5 screen is 480, 272 pixels. If I decide I want to go through and adjust this at all, I have a little reference for myself. All right, so that is going to draw my line, and then I want to go ahead and put my number on the screen, but I want it in a very specific spot, so I'm going to set the cursor to an area. This is going to be brain.screen.set underscore cursor. And you can see it's going to want rows and columns. There are 12 rows on the Vex V5 screen and 48 columns for text. So with that said, I'm going to put my on row 10. It's going to be pretty close to the bottom, but not all the way. And then I want it pretty much centered up, so I'm going to say 25 for my column. A little note on here again. The Vex V5 screen has 12 rows and 48 columns for characters. There we go. All right, so now that my screen is in the right spot, I want this thing to print whichever spot of the loop I'm in. So what I can do is turn around and say brain dot screen dot print. We already have our cursor set exactly where I want it to be, and I'm just going to print that variable counter. There you go. And it'll tell me which step I'm on. Now I want this thing to kind of, actually, let me put my note in there. This will print on the screen what my current counter is. All right, with that said, now I'm going to have this thing wait. Ultimately, I don't want my screen to flash so fast that no one can see it. So I'm going to put a wait command in here, but I also want this to be for a very specific amount of time, and I don't want to have to go hunting in my code for where this will be or what the number will be. So I'm going to come back up to my variables real quick, and I'm going to create another variable. I'm going to call this one sleeper, Sleeper. Single equal sign because I'm assigning it. I'm going to give this thing a number 2. So pound. This variable represents the number of units the program will wait. So I created my variable. Now I'm coming back down into my function here, and I'm going to say wait, because I want this thing to wait. And you can see it says right there, time and units. So my time is the variable I just created, which is sleeper, and comma, my units will be seconds. So ultimately, according to this, I'm going to wait sleeper, which is 2, so I'll be waiting 2 seconds. So a simple wait command. So the user has time to read the screen. Very good. Now, ultimately, I want this thing to not be an infinite loop, which means I want to be able to count my counter down. Oh, wait, before I do that, I want to clear my screen. So brain dot screen dot your screen. Open close parentheses and a screen refresh. All I'm doing is I'm clearing out the screen so that what I put on there next will have a clean screen to work off of. Now, I do want to work my counter. I want my counter to work down each time. So what I can do is counter equals counter minus 1. Now, here's the problem. I'm adjusting my counter inside my function, but it's not in there. It's outside. It's in a global fashion and not strictly inside my function here. So what I need to do is inside of my function, my first line, I'm going to type the word global. And then I'm going to type in counter. And what this will allow me to do is change a variable inside my function and have it affect outside my function. Without this global part, then the variable would not be able to be adjusted inside my function. So I just tell it's a global variable. I can now adjust it in the function and it will affect outside the function as well. All right, and come back to my counter here. This reduces the counter number to avoid an infinite loop. An infinite loop is a loop that just never ends. Right, so this function is what I want. I can draw a line right here. The line is drawn in the color of whatever I set it to down here in my while statement. I can then set the cursor position. I then print out whatever numbers in my counter. Wait for whatever number I put in my variable for sleeper in seconds. Clear the screen and then reduce my counter and come back out of it. So that means my first if statement works. All I have to do is now call my function, which would be line draw and open and close parentheses. I'm not setting any parameters through it, so I just leave them blank, and that's good. Now, if, as we talked about before, if-else statements, I can combine the if and then the else together in something called an elif statement. It means else if, and that's what I'm going to do here. As opposed to doing it in 2 lines, I can do it in 1. So elif, I'm now going to say my counter equals 9, or counter equals twice, equals, there we go, 9, or counter equals 4. I'm going to change my color of my set pen color to another color. Rain dot screen dot set and color. On this one, I'm going to make it blue. Then I'll call the function here. So now what you're seeing is if my counter, while my counter is equal to or above 0, I come in here. If it is greater than 9, or, which means either or, counter equals 5, then my pen color will be green, and then I come here, call the function, it draws my line, does my numbers out. Very good. If this is false, then I come down to my elif. Then if the counter equals 9 or the counter is 4, it'll be, instead of green, it'll be blue. So on and so forth. So I'm going to do this for each one of my numbers all the way down to the end here. So elif counter equals 8, or, so it can be either one, counter equals 3, colon, brain dot screen dot, we have screen dot set, or set underscore and underscore color. And my color is now going to be, I'm going to go with cyan. My function again to draw the line, reduce my counter, and all other fun stuff. The line draw, space elif counter equals 7, or counter equals 2. Then my brain dot screen dot set pen color. After cyan, I'm going to go to orange. Okay. Line, draw, open, close. So a 7. My next LF counter equals 6, or counter equals 1. And I go brain dot screen dot set pen color. So it's going to be yellow. Line, call my function, draw. There we go. Now finally, my last one is going to be a catch-all. And what I'm going to say is, if none of these numbers match up correctly, uh, counter is not greater than 9, or doesn't equal 5, doesn't equal 9, doesn't equal 4, doesn't equal 8, doesn't equal 3, doesn't equal 7, doesn't equal 2, doesn't equal 6, doesn't equal 1. In short, it needs to be at this point a 5 or a 0, but instead of doing an elif, which will actually test it, all I'm going to say is else. What this is saying is, if everything in this if, elif, and else statement has failed, all these different ifs that are showing up above it, if all those fail, then do this. And that will be brain dot screen dot set pen color. And this time I'm going to set my pen color to red. And call my function again. And draw. Very good. Now this is all you need to create it so that that bar changes colors and that the number counts down. I'm going to kind of go through this again real quick. It's going to be a counter for 10. So it's going to do the loop 10 times. The sleeper, which is how long this thing will wait for, is units of 2. And down here, you're going to see that it's in seconds. My function that gets done over and over again, all of this code, I did not have to write it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I just wrote it once. And I'm using it 6 times. Actually, I'm using it 11 times, if you really think about it. But I only wrote it once. And again, my function is defined. Then I have my name, my parameters, which are empty because I'm not sending anything through. Colon starts off my function. I have this global, which means that whatever variables are behind it, I can adjust them inside my function, and they will actually stay adjusted when I finish my function. Then I'm going to draw my line at 50, starting at 50x, 100y, and ending at 430x, 100y. That's going to give me my horizontal line. I am going to set my cursor to 1025. So row 10, column 25. I'm going to print that variable counter. So it gives us a countdown counter. I am going to wait for whatever sleeper is. I did it up here, it's 2. And my units is seconds. Oops. Yeah. I am going to then clear the screen out so it has a nice fresh screen to do next time. And then I'm going to reduce my counter down. And then here's my while and my if statements. And this is what the main focus of this was today, which is my while my counter is greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0. Then I'm going to do what's inside of my while statement. And what's inside my while statement is one really big if, and else statement, which is if my counter is greater than 9, or counter equals 5. Again, or means any of the conditions have to be met, not all of them. Then I change my color to green and my line draw. I do all that code up there. If this first one is false, then it's going to check the next one because it's an elif. It's going to check to see if it equals 9 or equals 4. Then it would be blue and draw it out. So on and so forth, 8 and 3, 7 and 2, 6 and 1. And then again, if all of those above it are false, then my else statement is to turn red and then draw the line and the number. And that's it. This simple code will now get you to see how the bar show up and your number countdown. This is your time to go ahead and try this out. Make sure you comment it out and let me know if you have any questions.